So I just got off the phone with my buddy. Haven't talked to him in a while. It's been a couple years since I talked to him. Me and him hunted together a lot in the late 80s, or pretty much the early 90s and the 2000s. We hunted a lot together, a lot. And we were reminiscing about the place that we hunted and the machines that we used. And we were talking about some sites that we used to hunt at. And it kind of reminded me, or just brought back in my memory of those sites that I really want to go back to. Some of the sites I might not be able to go back to because they're owned by different people, or they've been built upon. You know, they're no longer there, or some apartments or homes, the subdivisions are there. But you know, we're talking about, you know, me and him bought machines. He bought a V3 and I bought a VX3 the same week, and we learned that machine together. I eventually got a V3i, then a V3, then a V3i after that. And we were talking about he got in a car accident, a really horrific car accident, and broke his back and neck and broke his leg, so he's all full of steel plates and rivets and stuff, so he can't metal detect anymore. He got married and moved away a few years ago, 10 years back. And we were talking about how much silver we used to get. We used to hunt the parks, the curb strips, the schools, places were just freaking loaded with coins and silver jewelry. We would come back every hunt with just silver coins everywhere. You know, the trash nowadays, just in the last decade or so, it's been getting so bad that public places are just, the density of trash is severe, right? Extreme trash. Back in the days, we didn't really have that much, like the foil and the pencil erasers, and just the amount of trash that's in the ground, in parks and schools and curb strips is crazy. Curb strips have pretty much stayed the same. Curb strips are pretty clear of most trash that you have, like in parks and whatnot. And curb strips are pretty much coins and jewelry. Not a lot of foil. You know, you have to deal with a lot of stuff in parks. A lot of stuff near the surface. That's the whole problem. It's near the surface. And to get those deeper targets, you know, you got to clear the trash out, right? You got to clear the trash out. And we beat up parks for a long time, and we were getting those deeper silvers because we didn't have all that trash back then. We didn't have the EMI like we have today. Back then, we didn't have 3G, 4G, 5G. We didn't have cell phones in our back pockets. We didn't have water meters that have freaking wireless transmitters on them. You know, the water meters here have wireless transmitters on them, so the meter reader can come by and just sweep a detector over it and gives us a reading, right? We didn't have modems in houses. We didn't have freaking satellite dishes back then. We didn't have the communications lines and the interference that we had. We didn't have that stuff back then. Nowadays, it's, you know, everybody's got cell phones and lots of interference. Back then we had pagers, you know, if you were lucky enough to have a pager. And we didn't have cameras back. We didn't have, we had video cameras, but the video cameras back then were heavier than ours. Actually, the batteries in the video cameras were heavier than the metal detectors. And the metal detectors that we were using back then were freaking way heavy, man, like 5 pounds, right? 4 or 5 pounds. With you know, medium, large size coils. And, you know, we were just reminiscing, just crazy. It's just crazy how we come back with just multiple rings every hunt, right? Lots of silver coins just everywhere. Because we just didn't have to deal with all this stuff that we have nowadays. And those were simple machines, you know, just Tesoros, Fishers, Technetics, Whites. He bought Mine Labs. I got a couple Mine Labs, but I wasn't really in Mine Labs. They're ID, I had an E-Track for a while, but we had lots of machines, man, lots of analog machines, you know, but the machines back then, you know, they weren't durable. They took really expensive batteries, or nowadays those batteries are expensive, you know, the AA's and 9-volt batteries. But yeah, it's just pretty crazy. If you're older and you have some stories, man, you guys can relate with me. It was pretty crazy back then. Nowadays, mostly what you get is freaking trash near the surface, trying to get those deeper targets. You know, I'm talking about hunting in parks and schools and curb strips and stuff, places where people are dropping jewelry, rings, gold jewelry, silver jewelry. That's where you're gonna find the most good stuff, is near the trash. And you know, if you want to go deep, you know, you're gonna have to dig out a lot of that surface trash. Nowadays, you know, in the last 10 years, just the amount, the density of the trash is just crazy, man. My trash to treasure ratio is much higher than it was before, you know, 15, 20, 25 years ago. There were just so many coins, so many silver coins right near the surface, you know, kind of like pull tabs these days, you know. There's a weedy, there's a copper, there's a copper, there's a copper, there's a silver, there's another silver, and some were a few inches deep. But there were just so many silver coins back then. But back then, we didn't have a lot of competition like we have nowadays. The competition now is pretty hard, pretty severe, man. There are just so many people metal detecting. You just drive around town, you just see people metal detecting curb strips and schools and parks and everywhere, you know. They're just a lot of people. Even 10 years ago, it was like that, you know, a lot of guys hunting. But I'm gonna get back in and eat something. Well, thank you for watching.